$95.20 and why it could be just a little bit off. I'm going to show you how I got there, the rationale behind my decision-making process, and also some ancillary information that we just need to go over. Also, America's biggest exchange announces support for XRP Flare airdrop, and surprise, surprise, it's Coinbase. We'll get into all that, but first I want to say thank you to iTrust for sponsoring this video. I don't do many sponsors to date. I have had two. One is CryptoTrader.tax. I believe everybody has to do their taxes, so they might as well use some software to make it easy on themselves. And iTrust because I believe everybody should have, or at least look into, a IRA. Because if you live in the States and you believe that Joe Biden is going to get into office, you have to watch out because Biden's new tax plan is going to raise tax revenue by $3 trillion over the next decade. And the reason they're going to do that, or how they're going to do that, is they're going to tax the living tar out of long-term capital gains. And these could be as high as almost 40%. So if you're into cryptocurrency digital assets, which I think you are, and you have a traditional IRA somewhere else or an old employer plan like a 401k, 403b, military TSB, or 457, then you can move them tax penalty free to a crypto IRA at iTrust. Also, if you want to start a brand spanking new IRA, just go over to iTrust Capital. There's a link in the description. Use the link in the description below. The first 30 days are free. Go to the website, schedule a call, and get to talking to a live actual person. All right, a rare promoted video on digital asset news. So what is going on right now? So it is Sunday, December 6th. It's about 11 a.m. El Paso, Texas time, and nothing's really going on. I'm not even going to go over the whole thing because Bitcoin's at 19.1. You all know the prices, so it's no big deal. XRP, 60 cents. Watch out. Tether, nobody cares. Litecoin, and so on and so forth. So really, I just want to make mention of one important thing. This is when all the money's made. This is when all the money's made, when it is boring and people don't want to look at, like, this is just dumb, it's never going to go up, maybe I was wrong, and you get the cold hands and you're like, oh, my hands are getting weak. This is when all the money's made, because this is when you dollar cost average in and you put money into it when nobody else is doing. Also, the second time to make a lot of money is when everything goes down. So just remember that, sure, it's boring, sure, there's really nothing really too much going on, but again, this is when all the money's made. All right, let's jump into today's big stories. So we don't know where we're going until we know where we've been. And I'll tell you where I've been, making crazy predictions last year. So two of my biggest videos, I would say, is Ripple makes 2020 prediction, had 56,000 views, which is okay. But this one over here, the Bitcoin XRP price in 2020, had 263,000 views on December 21st. So December 20th, 56, and then this one. So not too bad, but really I'm ashamed sometimes of these videos because, I mean, the price prediction is just outrageous, really ridiculous. So again, it all depends on where you were. And I really want you, as we're watching this, just kind of think to yourself, you know, what are my decision biases? Where could I have probably looked a little bit deeper? What was my flubs? Where were my errors? Because we have to take a look at the errors so we can actually, make improvements going forward. So the first minute or so, just me talking about, how we got here. And this was actually a report brought to us by Ripple Insights. And of course, they have a little agenda when they put these things out. But, when I was reading it made a lot of sense. So this is what we got. XRP price as it relates to the halving and as we see it compared to the price of Bitcoin, how Bitcoin has gone up from each halving to their all-time high. All right, so first of all, great music. I used to do a lot of music in the beginning. I think I started this channel around December, like end of November, early December. So yeah, this makes sense of what I was doing back then. But let's just rewind this for a second. This is what I'm going to go over. So what I did here is I used fractals. And I took a look at the first, second, third halving for Bitcoin. And I just saw how much percentage gains it was each of those halvings, or halvings, whatever you want to call it. And I just kind of extrapolated the data from there and said, well, if it was 6 cents, when during the first halving for XRP, then the second halving, this is what happened. It was $3.40. So that was a gain of about 28x, or 56x. And then, so the next one, if we cut it by half or so, we'll get to about $95.20. So I will say this, the time frame is still off because I said, well, it could be in 2022, but I have to really review this and go, I don't think it's going to happen. So I see where I was going, but it is kind of funny to, just to kind of take a look back and go, wow, what the heck? We're going to look forward a little bit. Let's see what I was actually thinking the very next day. So I thought this is all interesting because we're going to go over some MSNBC, some Squawk Box interviews, and we're going to see how they're pretty much doing the exact same thing as I did about a year ago. How the predictions are pretty much on point, but there's just a little bit of a variance. But when I took a look at this video, I'm like, oh my God, look at my portfolio back then. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted just to keep it small and just have a little bit and not blow it up like I did in 2017. Well, unfortunately, it repeats itself, and now my portfolio looks like this. Holy smokes, I went off the deep end. I know some people talk about, well, you got to get in these low cap gems to make the most amount of money when they're just, fractions of a penny and so on and so forth. You can make a lot of money that way. But for me, I kind of hedge my bets. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go down to like the 500 on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, just take a look at these prices and hope they kind of come in. To me, I feel like, well, Bitcoin and Ethereum is going to be the lion's share because I think those are the ones that are going to be the best. And then off of that, I've put my money into what I would consider lower cap gems, but not that much. But it does comprise the other 30% or so. And I will just tell you this. Out of all these different projects right now, the ones that I dollar cost average every single day still is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and Voyager. Those are the only ones. All the rest of them, I have my positions. I'm pretty good right there, and that is pretty much it. The reasoning behind it for me is pretty simple. I think Bitcoin's on the public consciousness. I think it's going to do very well, so I'm going to keep adding. I think it could go up to, at least 100,000 2021. Make another prediction right here. Let's see if it comes true. And it might even go up to 250, 300,000. I don't know. So I will still continue to add in until it hits around 35,000. Then I will not dollar cost average because I think it's going to go past that, hit the all-time high of whatever that could be, 100, 300,000, I don't know, and then come all the way back down to around 30, 35,000. So after 30,000, I will not dollar cost average in. I'll let the market retrace. Ethereum, I think, is going to be very big, going to be huge. And if it's not Ethereum, I think it's going to be Cardano. So it's one of those two. However, I've always said that I think there's room in the space for two. You can't dominate the global environment with a new technology, with just one technology and have it just go all the way. I mean, you could. Actually you could. Look at Amazon. That's really a new technology if you think about it. Google did the same thing, but I still think there's room for two in there. And then Voyager. I believe in Voyager. I believe what they're doing. I think it's going to be a huge project because of not just their app, but their acquisitions that they're doing. They just purchased a exchange in, I think it was France, in the European Union, so they're going to be branching out over there. Also, their token, I think I see it just like the Binance token. So that's why I put in money every single day to those 4 projects. So let's go back. So I wanted to start off with MSNBC, and they're just talking about Tim Draper and how crazy his prediction is. And now when we look about it, we're like, it's not crazy. That could actually totally happen.
Producers, we talked about this earlier today. I said, I don't know if we should talk about it because I felt like it was so bold, it's almost irresponsible. But he's a well-known guy. Yep. He's not going to say anything he doesn't believe. So we went ahead and did this. Is there anything that you're seeing that could make this bizarro prediction happen? So, yeah.
Isn't that amazing? First of all, they're like, this is so far outside the realm of possibility, we shouldn't even cover it because it's actually dangerous to our viewers. And now we look at it, we're like, yeah, 150,000 is a pretty conservative number these days, depending on, which big institution has put out their numbers. Fidelity and TD Ameritrade and all these big, Paul Tudor Jones and the Druckenmillers. And when they start talking about these numbers, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's what it's going to be. And it's not a big thing. And it was just a year ago. So it's amazing how things accelerate so fast.
You know what? It sounds bizarro, but it wouldn't be out of the realm of what Bitcoin has done in the past. And so that's why I wanted to bring up this chart. And just to be clear, this is not my call, but I just want to take a look at what Bitcoin does. So the chart we have here is a log chart of Bitcoin since 2013. And as Carter Worth will say, the lines draw themselves, but you have this channel going all the way back to 2013, and it's traded nicely in that. Now look at this. If you go all the way out here to the top of this channel here, that's about 200,000, 250,000.
So it totally makes sense, right? We looked at it back then and we're like, that's kind of crazy. But now in today, December 6, 2020, we're like, yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. That's within striking distance, we would say. So there's that piece. And then just one thing about Tim Draper, he's been incredibly consistent the whole time and he's hit his numbers. So he was the one that called Actually, he called it 20,000 Bitcoin, and it went up to 20,000. So 10 to 20, hey, if you're under it, not too bad. And now we're going to get into Tom Lee. And this is always funny about Tom Lee, because when he was on there this year, they treated him like some second-class citizen. They're like, all right, not coming here and talk about your craziness. But in 2017, they treated him like a god, because he was like, yeah, Bitcoin's going to go to this and it's going to go up. They're like, oh, really? Fantastic. And of course, now remember, this is 2019 when everything was like crashing. Bitcoin was around $7,000. It had been like moving sideways and nothing doing really anything. And they're like, all right, Tom, come in here and, spew your ridiculousness. Let's hear it. But again, he's another guy who's been incredibly consistent. So I got to tip my hat to him.
Hey YouTube, how's it going?
How do I
Stay safe. How do I stay strong?
How do I stay creative?
I'd still say if I looked at 2020, the easiest way to make money in crypto is going to be a position in Bitcoin. I mean, as you guys mentioned, it's actually done quite well this year.
So I think Tom here is a Bitcoin maximalist. The thing is with Bitcoin, I think it's the safest bet. I do personally, because everybody knows about it. Institutions are getting in. Old school legacy places like Fidelity now has Fidelity Digital Assets, and they're going to push a lot of people to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I think that's the safest bet. However, if you think about it, for Bitcoin to go up to its all-time high, it's around 7,000 right now, somewhere around there. It's December 21st, 2019. So for it to go up to its all-time high, it has to roughly triple, right? 7 times 321, my math is correct. And the all-time high was around 20,000. Okay, triple. But if you look at other digital assets like XRP, right now it's at 20 cents. If it tripled, that'd be 60 cents. Its all-time high was $3.40. So what is it, 8x, 10x? 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, so I'm not real good at math, and I'm still not. But that was the thinking back then. I was like, you know what? There's more upside. I still think about, XRP. There's still major upside, because just to get back to its all-time high, look, that is another 10x. Well, not now, but when it was 25 cents, 30 cents, or something like that. And of course, yeah, I could have made it. But I was like, wow, I don't think Bitcoin's going to get back to its previous all-time high. And here we are. We're almost, we just hit it not too long ago. Actually, we exceeded it, not like about a week ago. I did say, though, back then, I thought that the safest bet was Bitcoin. That was a year ago. And I still say the exact same thing. Actually, I was on Jerry Hall's show. And at the very end, I asked everybody who was on the panel, I said, if you have $10,000 and you have to bet your family's future on it, what would you put, which cryptocurrency would you put that into? And it could be anything. Bit Avenue and Crypto Siege, without hesitation, said XRP. Jerry at first said Bitcoin, but then we put some other parameters in. He said, yeah, okay, I'll go XRP. You know what? I'm still going to go Bitcoin because it's the most conservative. No, it won't. It could not potentially make the gains that XRP could, but we don't know what's going to happen. XRP could be deemed a security. Now, before you throw your fist at the screen and start screaming, you never know. It's not like the wheels of justice are perfect. Let's just be honest. And they could do that, and that could sink a lot of things. It could still take off. It would just take a heck of a lot longer. And there could be other issues that are out there. So I think that XRP could be a great play for you if it all works out. But for me, I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm going to go a little bit safer and then go with that. Now, am I going to sell my XRP? No. Like I've said before, I will go down with the ship. I will go down as long as it takes, because guess what? I've got nothing but time, and if it doesn't make it, it's okay. I've already lost a whopping like 80% now, 75%, somewhere of the value of that position. So another 20% is not going to kill me, and I just don't care. So now that I look back on these videos and I see just the positions that a lot of the people have, I respect their decision even more, just to hold strong with, this is what I see it's going. This is what I believe it to be. They're not all over the place. You know, some people might say that they're charlatans just for their initial prediction, but it's what they truly believe it's going to be. And again, they're not like just throwing out these like super crazy numbers. Maybe back then it was a crazy number, but at least that they've been consistent the whole total time, and I can respect that. Anyhow, let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think XRP could hit $95.20 or that $589 magical number that people keep throwing around? Or do you think it's going to go back to being pegged to the quarter? Let me know in the comment section. Let's move on. Next up, this will be quick. Coinbase is going to list the Flare airdrop for XRP. This is kind of a surprise to me because I didn't think they were going to do anything with retail. I've been saying for a while, for about a week now or so, a couple weeks, I think Coinbase has just moved on to the institutional side and has kind of left the retail at the wayside. But they actually bowed down and said, yep, you know what, we're going to bend the knee and we're going to say, yes, we will definitely support this Flare airdrop. And it really comes down to the power of the community, because if the community didn't demand it so much or talk about it so much or give them so much trash about it, they wouldn't have done it, because they'd be like, who cares? We don't need to do this for anybody. But now that people step up and they do it, hey, now here we are. So this is actually from Status, and he puts out a nice little graphical representation of all the different wallets and exchanges that are actually going to participate in this airdrop. You got everything from Uphold, BitHum, AKASHX. The new ones that I saw was Kraken at first put out a release that said, we're not going to support this. And then they totally did a 180 and said, oh, well, we're going to support it. So Kraken's going to do it. My guys over at AKASHX Capital are even going to do it. And then Poloniex is also going to, but there's just one thing, and this comes down to all the different exchanges, and that is this. This is the official blog post for Coinbase where they say, yes, we're going to support it. It's on December 12th, 2020 at 0000 hours. So I recommend that you stop transferring all your stuff around a couple of days before and just let it sit there. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to do it the last minute. That's dumb. Just put it in there, set it and forget it, and don't move it. So they do say this, and this is for all exchanges. Our decision to support any asset requires significant technical and compliance review and may be subject to regulatory approval in some jurisdictions. Which is amazing, because when Uniswap got listed, it was like, as soon as it got, Uniswap said, we're going to give out some tokens. Coinbase is like, we'll do that, and then no problems, but whatever. We therefore cannot guarantee when or if Spark will be available for distribution in any specific jurisdiction at this time. So this goes with all the exchanges. If they don't want to list it, they're not going to list it. I don't know how that's going to work as far as like getting it off the exchange. Maybe Ledger will support it, or maybe they'll have their own wallet. I have no idea. But just so you know, the exchanges you pick could not end up listing it, meaning you could not sell it, meaning that it could just be stuck there, and maybe not. Who knows? Also, the snapshot is happening on December 12th. Doesn't mean you're going to instantly get those Flare tokens. It's going to be until Q1 2021, so just be aware of that. And lastly, there's two wallets that I don't see here. I don't see Celsius anywhere here, but Celsius is going to support it. You can do a search for Celsius XRP airdrop, and there'll be a video there from a guy named Nuke, the chief technical officer. Also, Alex Mashinsky came out on YouTube and did the same thing on one of his AMAs and said, yes, we are going to support it. Also, Voyager is also going to support that. I had messaged Steve last week. I said, hey, man, I know you're getting ready for your big Giants game, which they're going to lose. I said, are you guys going to support the airdrop? He said, yeah, we said it on Twitter, but not in a formal release. But yes, we are. Go Giants, da-da-da. So Voyager will also be supporting, and you don't have to do anything. You just leave it right there, and that's it. So as far as I can tell, it seems to me like most, if not all, well, most, you can't say all, most of the big exchanges and big wallets are going to support this. And that's on top of Binance and Binance US as well. And that is really it for today. Don't forget to check out AKASHX Capital. The link is in the description below. Just go over there, schedule a call, talk to them as long as you want to. It's great talking to a real person. And then get these things done before these crazy taxes get enacted. Or even if there's no crazy taxes that come up, you're still going to have to pay taxes. So try to minimize those as best as possible. All right, so thanks for sticking with me to the whole thing. I really appreciate it. If you like these types of videos, there's going to be 2 more that's going to pop up on your left and right. Not sure, I'll let YouTube do their magic. And that is it for today. So thanks again, really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one. Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. Today, pretty fascinating stuff. First up, Ethereum ETF to debut on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So if this is happening in Canada, how long before we see the same exact thing in the USA and other countries moving forward also? MicroStrategy has not stopped accumulating Bitcoin. Michael Saylor, the CEO, comes out and states that they have purchased approximately 2,500 plus more Bitcoins for 50 million in cash. So the question is asked, will there be any Bitcoin left for the rest of us? When large corporations like MicroStrategy are buying en masse on top of PayPal, as well as Grayscale and Square. Also, the currency czar, Brian Brooks, goes on to Squawk Box and states that Bitcoin is here to stay and they're not going to kill it. However, other members of Congress are not so diligent in their research. So we'll take a look at all that, but first let's go on into the market. And before we get into that, it is December 5th, 10 a.m., El Paso, Texas time. I am back in El Paso. I put out a quick poll and I just asked, does everybody want me to keep doing market cap breakdown under each video? And it's pretty close. I mean, we've had over 1,000 votes so far, and really it's 47 to 48. Then there's an other, so who knows? But I will just say this. I'm just going to listen to everybody, and pretty much everybody says we like it, to keep it. Some people say no, get rid of it. But I think to meet everybody in the middle, let's just do it a little bit faster. Instead of going all the way through like 100, let's just stick with the top 20. Because if you're not in the top 20, well, maybe your project should work harder. And that's all I'll do. And I'll just do like a minute, 2 minutes, and that is it. Also, I'm going to try to do it in dark mode because people who are in different time zones around the whole world are like, hey, I'm just waking up, man. So stop making it so bright. So sure, I'll do that. So here's what we got. So Bitcoin, 19K. Hey, not too bad. I'll take it right now. It looks like it's maybe a little bit of a rebound. We have little pullbacks, but that's normal. If you're new to the space, just know there's going to be some pullbacks. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes 3 steps forward and 20 steps back. Just how it is. Anyhow, Ethereum dipped below 600, but again, I can see it's rocketing up in 2021. I think it's going to be massively successful, and I think it will actually outdo Bitcoin in terms of ROI, but we'll see. XRP, 58 cents. Watch out. You know, it had an impressive run, but it is coming back down. And I can't say XRP pegged the quarter because it's not a quarter. It went up, 100%. So good for that. And good for all the XRP holders. But, it is at 58 cents. I know it was around 70, 68 something, somewhere in there. So, but it is up almost a percentage and 4.6 for the week. So, hey, we'll take it. Tether's Tether, almost at 20 billion. Congratulations. Litecoin was the darling lately. It's up 20% for the week. And if you're a Litecoin holder, man, tip of the hat. Congratulations to you, because I could not hold on to that for when I bought a long time ago. I just didn't really see a purpose. But with PayPal listing it, really, you almost have to own it. Just like Bitcoin Cash. Now it's in the number 6 spot. 284 looks like a market cap of 5.3 billion, and it's always jostling with Chainlink, which has a 5.2 billion dollar market cap. So we'll see how it goes, but I can see all 3 of these coins just jockeying for position, unless Cardano comes out and really starts to do massive things. I see huge things for Cardano in 2021. I mean, with Goguen coming about, with the smart contracts, with Voltaire, which they just put out a release they're going to do about voting and things like that. This is going to be a huge project, and it's why I'm getting into Cardano staking pool. So I don't have the technical know-how, but 2 people reached out to me, and they are very technical. I've got Brandon and Joe, and they were a part of the actual testnet when it was like super tough to have a stake pool. They did all those things. They kept uptime up to 99.9%, and they're going to do the same thing with our stake pool, and that's why we're all working together. But again, I have to make sure everything's right. This is important, so just bear with me. I don't like to rush things, obviously, so I'll let everybody know when it's ready. Polkadot down a little bit. Binance Coin, Stellar, anything great? Top 20? Nah, not really. All right, so now I want to switch over to Bitcoin, because it really all depends. If we put in a US dollar, that's great, but what if you would just invest in Bitcoin? Would you be up? Well, with Ethereum, yeah, you'd be up 3% for the week. XRP 0.3, but down 6% for the week. That's a bummer. Litecoin be up 7.5, but 1 for the day. What else is not too much, really? So again, when you start to go down lower, you will get a little bit better returns. But in the top 20, usually, if you just invest in Bitcoin, you usually do pretty well. And nothing has really gone over to altcoins. I expect it to happen in 2021, but we will see. All right, that is it for that section. let's break into today's top stories. So first up, I found this fascinating. I was kind of hoping that the ETF would be in America, but because I'm a Yank and that's what we like. We like everything to be in America because it's how all Americans are. But I will take Canada. I mean, I'll take any ETF anywhere. This is a good, solid thing for cryptocurrency space. So what is going on? Well, this just got released about an hour ago. And it states, next week, Canadian digital asset investment manager 3iQ will be launching an IPO for the world's first Ethereum ETF, or the Ether Fund, on the Toronto Stock Exchange, TSX, under the ticker QETH.U. The launch, it's going to be $100 million, and the closing date of the offering will be no later than December 10th. 3iQ counts more than 400 million Canadian assets under management, so there are no lightweights, and they are experts in the game, I would say. When we talk about ETFs, really we start to think, in America, we start to think about Grayscale, because that's like the close. I mean, really it isn't, but I mean, they custody for people, institutions and accredited investors, and actually everybody can go over there and pick up some Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and they will custody it for you. So really you're getting like, paper Bitcoin, which whatever, that's fine. It's kind of like what an ETF, I mean, almost the same thing, but the problem is that you're going to pay a premium on that. And to me, when I look at that, I'm like, well, why are people paying such a high premium? Why can't they do it themselves? Because institutions can't custody it themselves. They need someone else to do it, and they will pay a pretty penny because they know exactly where this market's going, just like we all do. So they're like, okay, we'll play the game. We're going to pay your 20%, 50%, whatever fee, and you guys just custody it for us, and we'll just sit around and reap the rewards. So, I mean, it just states here, despite a price premium, which at time creeped upwards of 500%, relative to the net asset value for Ethereum. And that's true. They were paying like 5x just to get Ethereum. It's crazy. Grayscale's Ethereum Trust, the digital assets behemoth, reports that more and more investors have been piling in. And there's a reason why Grayscale is always one of those companies that is always talking about, hey, we bought more Bitcoin. Hey, we bought more Ethereum. Hey, we got this. I mean, they have 500,000 plus Bitcoin. They are on their way to owning 1 million. Think about that. They're going to own 1 million Bitcoin. Now they're going to custody for their institutional players and accredited investors, but that's huge. I mean, that's 1 million out of 21 million. I mean, we talk about decentralization, how great it is, but in reality, I kind of see a lot of centralization of who is actually buying up these assets. And we're going to talk about MicroStrategy in a bit, and it's kind of worrisome, but it is what it is. So that's why on this channel, I try to teach people about having strong hands. And don't sell, don't let it slip. And I always feel like all these little dips and all these little shenanigans that are going on in the background, I always kind of feel like it's just like little plays for the big institutions and Wall Street and all these money managers to kind of get in and kind of scoop up the Bitcoin that we kind of sell on the side, because they're like, we got your Bitcoin, and we're not gonna let it go. Michael Saylor for MicroStrategy says, hey, I don't understand traders. I'm just going to hold this for the rest of my life until my grandkids' lives. I'm not selling Bitcoin whatsoever. And I kind of feel that way. So that's why I'm always preaching about dollar cost averaging. Don't get over your head. And when you have money left in the bank, because you're dollar cost averaging, you don't feel that tightness in your chest, and you don't sell and do something stupid like that. So that's just why I'm always harping on it. I don't want you to fall victim to these manipulations, and then you lose your Bitcoin and all your other, some other digital assets because you just couldn't hold on. Just hold on. Anyhow, in November alone, gold giant Van Eck launched a Bitcoin exchange traded note product in Germany. The Van Eck Vectors Bitcoin ETN and 3iQ also introduced the Bitcoin Fund to Canada. So things are moving in the right directions for institutional investors to really get in. And these ETFs are exactly what big money players really want to have so they can get exposure to Bitcoin. This is Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, a pretty famous guy, you might know him. On Anthony Pompliano's podcast, he said, hey, I'd love to get into Bitcoin, but first of all, I don't want to custody that. I got a lot of money. What am I going to do? Like buy millions and millions and put it on some ledger? He's like, no, I don't want that responsibility, but I would like to do an ETF. And it's just what people are comfortable with in that circle. So if we could give them the ETF, and then it would, raise the whole value or the whole public consciousness of Bitcoin as well as other crypto assets, let's just do that. The whole hurdle of course, is getting through the financial regulations here in the USA. But if they have it in Canada and things are going out globally and there's a lot of different movement, I kind of feel it like hopefully we can get it done. However, this whole ETF nonsense has been talked about since 2012 and before. So I never hold my breath, talking about ETF. And quite honestly, I don't think we even need one. I just think it would be like a feather in the cap. Anyhow, let me know what you think in the comments section. Let's move on. Next up, and I'll make this quick, Michael Saylor's a baller. I mean, this guy just buys Bitcoin like it's going out of style. This was a tweet yesterday, December 4th at 3:40 p.m. He says, hey, MicroStrategy has purchased approximately 2,500 plus Bitcoins for 50 million in cash, just something laying around, in accordance with its treasure reserve policy at an average price of approximately 19,427 per Bitcoin. We now hold approximately a ton of Bitcoins. So there's two things I want to bring up. First is this, Michael and everybody else who has invested in Bitcoin recently is looking like absolute geniuses, because just take a look here. This is what they paid for, 475 million for the base price for Bitcoin. This was back in August. This is today's value. I mean, August, September, October, November, December. I mean, you're looking at 4 months and you almost doubled your money, almost. So other businesses are looking at this like, why did we keep it on cash? Cash is on fire and the inflation rate is higher. And of course, we're going to have quantitative easing, which is going to further debase that currency. So why do we have this? Also, if you're a gold bug, I mean, look, before I start, I own gold, silver, and Bitcoin. But I'm just saying, if you're owning a ton of a ton of gold over Bitcoin, I think that's a mistake, honestly. And we see it right here. Now, gold bugs will say, you don't understand, it's been around for thousands of years, and this is all going to go to zero. And yeah, sure, okay, whatever, maybe it will. But for right now, you have to tip your hat and go, look, well played, sir, because you guys almost doubled your money. And, gold has actually receded over the last couple of weeks. And there's been little fluctuations here and there, but it was at a high of around 2,000. What is it, 1,900, 1,800 now? So not a great play if you did what you did. Also, everybody's up pretty much. Galaxy Digital, 134, now that at 318, that's pretty good. 50 to 89 for Square, and then just kind of look at the whole thing. And that's on top of what they just bought right now. That will go up, I think, in 2021 massively, and they'll look even smarter. Now, here's the problem, though. With all these big institutions coming in, this goes on to my first point, where I think there's some kind of shenanigans going on. There's some kind of like manipulation, because they want you to drop your crypto so they can pick it up and they can make all the profits. And I'm going to tell you what, when I saw this blog, this was from Coinbase. They were the ones that did all those microtransactions to help MicroStrategy pick up all that Bitcoin in August, and they didn't move the price that much. So they had a lot of moving parts, and they helped them do this. That's fine. I'm not going to take it away from it. That is the business strategy, right? Good for you guys. You really bought up a lot out of Bitcoin for cheap. But here's the problem. I think when you have something like this was just one strategy. Do you not think that maybe they're in the background going, you know what, maybe we could put out a press release, or maybe we can start to talk about different things that could lower the price, and maybe we could pick up some other Bitcoin, just a couple 100,000, some right, whatever here and there. I think they will. And I think it's all a ploy against you. So keep your strong hands. You know where this is going. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, everybody and their mother was talking about this while I was driving to El Paso from Houston yesterday, and it was huge. I had a little bit of time, so I tweeted this out, and it's fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, I have to play it because it's huge. One of these biggest arguments against Bitcoin is that the governments will ban it, and of course, some people will say, "Well, good luck with that," because first of all, you got to shut down the entire internet. Then some people will say, well, but they could ban the exchanges. Well, you can do that, but guess what? Every other country out there is like, oh, you banned it over there? Great, just come over here, because we'd love to help you out, and we'd love to make all those millions and billions of dollars. So I think it would be very foolish for that to happen. But this is Brian Brooks. He is the czar over there at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and he's doing great things. If you haven't followed him on his Twitter handle, it's great. It's like it's a lot of great things he's talking about, especially things about cryptocurrency digital assets. I mean, this guy really is in the game. And when he said this, I mean, this was fantastic. Just take a listen.
Our boss at Coinbase, the CEO, Brian Armstrong, sent out last week. And he said that the Treasury could be, quote, planning to rush out some new regulation regarding self-hosted crypto wallets before the end of the term. Is that true?
Yeah, look, Melissa, rumors abound in Bitcoin more than almost any other place. What I would tell you is we're very focused on getting this right. We're very focused on not killing this. And it's equally important that we develop the networks behind Bitcoin and other cryptos as it is that we prevent money laundering and terrorism financing. So believe me, there's a balance here and it's going to work for everybody.
So that's neither a yes or no answer to that. Should we be expecting some new regulations by the end of the Trump term?
I think you're going to see a lot of good news for crypto by the end of the Trump term. Some of it's going to have to do with banks connecting to blockchain. Some of it's going to be more clarity around the nature of these assets. So believe me, there's going to be very positive messages coming out. At the same time, it's a dangerous world out there. We have to be honest about that. But nobody's going to ban Bitcoin. Nobody's going to ban some of these transmission technologies. I think it's going to be a lot less bad than people worry about.
So yeah, a couple of things. Remember the beginning when she said that Brian Armstrong put out a little tweet and said, there's a little different problems. They're going to start to rush regulations coming in as far as wallets. Well, do you remember what happened with the Bitcoin price after he put that out? Dropped. Guess what happened? Well, MicroStrategy just bought up a bunch of Bitcoin. Don't you think that maybe that might have happened at that point? I don't know. It could be, couldn't be. It's just one of those things. You see, Brooks gets it. He understands what's going to happen. He understands where everything is going. And he understands that retail and every other person on the planet, they want something faster, better, cheaper. And if we can do some of that with digital assets and cryptocurrency, then why not? Now, he understands exactly what it is. Here's the problem. When you have a new technology, it's scary for some people because they just don't understand it. And they get worried and they want to regulate the living tar out of it. And this is a problem. So this is something that, first of all, I'm 99% sure will not pass, but it has to be brought up and has to be talked about. And before we go off in the deep end and go, I hate this person or I hate this group or whatever else, you have to understand, it's not that people are purely 100% evil. That's just not what it is. I think part of it is that people are uneducated and they are ignorant and they need to have someone sit them down and explain to them, I know you're afraid. I know this is new to you, but this is why it is unfounded. And here's how we can work together. And I tweeted out, I said, Brian Brooks is a prime example here to sit these people down and say, hey, I'm going to bring together these Congress people and say, look, you don't have anything to worry about. Digital assets, cryptocurrencies, it's an open platform. It is decentralized, and we can do a lot of good here. Now, here's what this whole bill is about. This is Rashida Tlaib, Democrat from Michigan, I believe. And the whole thing is this. She's worried about stable coins and these corporations such as Tether and USDC and all the and Paxos, and they're able to issue these stable coins. She's like, I don't like corporations doing that. I want banks to do that. And again, the problem here is that stable coins aren't familiar to people in Congress and regulators. They just don't know exactly what it is, except for Brian Brooks and his team. So Tlaib introduced a bill co-sponsored by Reps Lynch and Chuy Garcia that offers a solution. They want to require stable coins that promise a fixed value in US dollars or peg to the dollar to be issued by banks. This constitutes taking a deposit, which is something only banks can do, not tech companies, nor the associations they set up to issue coins on their behalf. And what she really wants is for them to work with minority-owned banks. So in regards to this, Brian Brooks said, fine, here's some support for minority-owned banks. We have not been doing a good enough job. We'll help support this issue. This was actually 2 days ago. But then he further stated this, and this is the whole meat and potatoes of the whole article. He describes the bill as a solution searching for a problem. He says some of the provisions, such as ensuring adequate reserves and the ability to redeem stablecoins for dollars, can be handled without requiring issuers to become banks, which he argues would stifle competition. So essentially what they're saying is like Circle and USDC and Tether and Paxos, they have to become banks to issue these types of stable coins. And that would be awful because there's a lot of hoops to go through to become a bank. Just ask Kraken. And he makes a good point. He says, what if email got invented and somebody said only the post office can issue email accounts? So it's the same type of thing. Look, let's call a spade a spade. Banks have screwed over people left and right from the beginning of time, okay? So you got things like the Wells Fargo account scandal, where they just created checking accounts out of thin air and without anybody's consent for their customers. They just kept doing it. And then, of course, you had all the different fines that JP Morgan gets, 30 billion in fines and counting. And believe me, I don't know what's going on in the background. They've also been spoofing metals and things like that for I don't know how long. It's just like a cost of doing business. And then you have the Dutch bank fined 900 million for money laundering, and they just kind of pass over those different problems to the consumer. And you got something like this, Bank of America, 16 billion in financial fraud. And of course, again, the people that are the most susceptible are the poor and the downtrodden. So when Tlaib is talking about these different issues, I mean, she should be worried about the people that are in her district, but she's going about it, I believe, the wrong way by giving power back to these bankers, when in all reality, all they're going to do is take the information and all the different power that we give them and go, thanks, we're going to screw you over some more. So just get out of the way of innovation and everything should be fine. Again, I think this is an opportunity to teach and to include and bring everybody to the table, because I think you're going to get a lot farther by meeting in the middle than just dividing everybody and trying to move forward. So those are just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comments section. And that's really it. The last thing I'll say is, well, first of all, thanks for sticking with me through the whole thing. I really appreciate it. A lot of different information out there, but I think it's good information. Also, don't forget that danteachescrypto.com, free website. It is up right now. You can learn a lot of great information for free, and I try to condense as much as I possibly can. We break it into 5 different modules: basics, safety, investing, reviews, and then the how do I. I think how do I and basics, from the data that I've been seeing, for everybody who actually clicks on it, these are the 2 big ones, and investing is actually coming in like a close second. But if you take a look at how do I buy Theta? How do I use Uniswap? How do I update the firmware of my Nano Ledger? All the different questions that you should know are right there. And then, of course, the basics are just like, what is cryptocurrency? What is Bitcoin? So for most of us here, it's not important because you probably know all that stuff already. But if you have someone who needs to know that, then send them this link. There's a link in the description of every one of my videos. It looks just like this. And then come on over, and of course, it's 100% free. And that's it. So again, thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate it. If you like these types of videos, there'll be 2 more that's going to pop up on your left and right. Yep, YouTube do all their magic and whatnot. But that is all. So thanks again. See you on the next one. Bye.
People are now realize that the public blockchain was a mistake. They're trying to implement privacy on top of it. People are now concentrating on the environmental impact of proof of work and the like. So it's playing to our strength, and it's getting real this year. One thing I want to mention is the entire Italian banking system will be on Corda for interbank payments this year. Hundreds of millions of transactions will be transacted on Corda this year. So it is getting real. It's been 6 years. That feels like people
refer to this as the Aaron of the crypto space. This has been picked up by Forbes. I have to ask you, Tone, what has been going on?
I know, I wish Forbes would have reached out for an official comment, but yeah, Forbes did pick it up. It was a little bit more of a joke, but but that's what happened. That's what happened in Enron. I mean, Enron was pretty much cooking the books, and they had a fake instrument. They were selling these I guess contracts on energy, but there was nothing there. It was all just smoke and mirrors. And that's how I see the Ripple token, and I've always explained it that way. There's absolutely no reason for this token to exist. There's no reason to add a very volatile currency, and Ripple is insanely volatile. Ripple just dropped 20% in a single day the other day when it fell from 30 cents down to 26 cents. These things are insanely volatile, and there's no reason for them to exist, and they keep making up reasons for it to exist. Now, there is a lawsuit going on right now claiming them to be a security, but that lawsuit is not coming on behalf of the SEC. That lawsuit is coming on behalf of an individual, so it's not exact. I don't really know what's going to happen there. We do cover it on the Bitcoin Law Review, and yeah, I know one of the lawyers didn't like the fact that I call everything a scam, but I would have given Forbes a more official comment. But yeah, the Ripple token is a really, really sad situation where it was created back in 2012 or so, just to make money, basically. And now the company has spent the last 6 years trying to disassociate itself from this token, while at the same time trying to make up any reason for it to exist.
On a final note, Tone, I do want to ask you.
Appropriate for XRP.
There's a lawsuit hanging over Ripple right now. A group of people are saying that XRP and Ripple are sort of tied together, and that XRP could consider it an unregistered security. What would you say to them?
Well, it's pending litigation, so I'll probably be a little bit, muted on the topic. Suffice it to say, we don't think it has merit. These are people who didn't buy XRP from us. We also don't believe XRP is a security. I think, one of the poignant arguments in my point of view is, if I went back to the office and said to the team at Ripple, hey, we're shutting down, XRP trades on 130, 140 exchanges around the world. XRP would keep trading. So you're like, wait a minute. Okay, so if it's a security of what? It's not a security of Ripple. It doesn't give you the rights to dividends or ownership of Ripple, the company. We have shareholders of Ripple, right? We raised a Series A financing, a Series B financing, and we own a lot of XRP, but they're two separate things.
At the same time, we've seen recently Block One had the hammer come down on them from regulators. They were basically said that they were selling an unregistered security.
$24 million. Just
it's interesting you call that a hammer. They raised $4 billion, and they
it's a light hammer. It's a light hammer.
You and I have a different judgment of what a hammer is.
Maybe it's a fly swatter.
hammer.
Either way, so what's the difference between Block One and their token EOS versus what you guys are working on?
Well, I think one really important distinction is the XRP ledger existed before Ripple, the company. It's a public blockchain. You can go back and see kind of transactions 0, 1, 2, 3. You can see when Ripple was incorporated in the Secretary of State in California. Ripple didn't create the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger had utility prior to Ripple's existence. Certainly we are an interested party in the success of the XRP ledger, for sure. We own a lot of XRP. But it's a little bit like saying, Exxon owns a lot of oil. That doesn't make oil a security. Exxon's clearly interested in how to, we can argue about the health of the, I'm not here to debate carbon emissions.
Climate crisis, you want to get into that?
This is the example I wanted to choose here, but suffice it to say, Exxon cares a lot because they have a lot of...
China and the People's Bank of China have harnessed this and are ready to put it out there. There is concern that this could put the U.S. dollar into jeopardy.
What I would say to President Trump and Chairman Powell is we shouldn't paint all crypto with one broad brush. What I think you see in their comments is the kind of very general view that can crypto be used for illicit purposes? Can crypto be used for anonymous transactions? The U.S. should not take a blind eye and not recognize that not all of this is about those illicit use cases. And the reason why I think China is leaning in is because they see that future.
But China says that they could use their China coin to surpass or do a workaround the sanctions that the U.S. has put into place on certain countries.
And so I think you're right that part of the opportunity they see is how can they dislodge the U.S. dollar. What Ripple is trying to do isn't at all to compete with the U.S. dollar, to compete with really any fiat currency. We're simply trying to use our technologies and use the open source technology of the XRP ledger to reduce the frictions in these payments.
Well, to that end, when you're talking about the government, French Hill, a Republican from Arkansas, and Bill Foster, the Democrat from Illinois, both wrote a letter to the Federal Reserve saying, you guys better get on the ball here. This is important because we could lose our status eventually, or at least put the greenback in jeopardy.
Right. And I think you are seeing some members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, and luckily this is a very bipartisan issue, that they see that the U.S. has been a leader in many technical revolutions. There's no reason why we shouldn't be here. And there are big issues at stake, including, as we're describing here, kind of, where does the U.S. dollar sit in the hierarchy of global currencies?
Unlike where we were when the internet was in its infancy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm Ryan Zagone with Ripple.
Right. And say your name so everybody can.
Ryan Zagone with Ripple. There's a recognition here that there's many benefits to the technology. But unlike almost every other sector, the regulatory framework must be in place for innovation to take root in financial services. And there is a broad recognition that that is needed. Now, we've faced the same issue about an uncertain technology and an uncertain time before. This isn't the first time we've had to ask this question. And it was with the creation of the internet. We recognize
customers. And so we're seeing more momentum than we've ever had around using XRP to move this liquidity around the world. And so we couldn't really be happier about how that has played out in a world where there's still a lot, I think, of FUD, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt about what's going on in crypto. This is a real use case solving a real problem for real customers.
Okay, so which banks right now are actually using Ripple?
Well, we have signed up about over 200 banks around the world. Some of those banks just use our software to do that debit and credit, fiat to fiat, and some of them are using XRP in those flows. We have banks like Santander that we've been working with for years and are moving lots of volume through the Ripple's technology. And then, as I mentioned earlier, payment providers like MoneyGram or RIA or Asimov that are using XRP actually to move that liquidity.
Inflation, Keynes said it many years ago that it's an invisible tax that only one man in a million really understands, and it's a tax on people that have had faith in their currency that the government's issued. It's interesting in the United States. The value of the dollar since I was born has declined by 94% to 6 cents. So inflation.
So how can we take payments global? So we've talked a little bit about SEPA today. Fedor has some APIs that tap into that. So wouldn't it be cool if you had euros in any bank account, say like Deutsche or Credit Suisse, and you could actually send those euros to another account within SEPA, which is pretty fast clearing, but have that money converted into dollars, yen, or whatever other currency is actively trading on the Ripple network. That would be pretty freaking cool. So how are we going to do this? Well, Fedor's got some pretty cool APIs. Ripple also has some APIs, so maybe we can put them together to create this experience. That would be awesome. Yeah. So Patrick already alluded to this, but I'll just reiterate, even though we're API-rits, we need to respect the rules of the high seas of finance, including things like KYC and AML. You might have heard of them. Those can be expensive costs for developers to maintain, so I'm happy to see that Fedor is providing those solutions for the innovators in this space. So let's talk about the links in the chain a little bit to actually make a cross-currency transaction happen. Before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about what a Ripple gateway is. So Fedor is actually acting as a Ripple gateway after their integration. And what that means is that they are holding customer deposits in euros, and if a customer wants to transfer that money through Ripple, they can represent that euro balance on Ripple and send it through. So you can think of a gateway as kind of like a pseudo bank, right? They take in a deposit and they issue you a balance. So we have actors on the Ripple network today that aren't even actually traditional banks that are doing this type of thing. SnapSwap was referenced, and that's going to be a partner of Fedor for settling in US dollars. So gateways sync external payments with corresponding Ripple transactions. Ripple Labs has created a software framework called Gateway D that it can be integrated with external payment systems, so you can write custom code that connects to Gateway D so that those payments are mirrored in real time onto Ripple. So the features of this middleware, things like deposits and withdrawals, you can issue currency, you can do robust payments that are sent through to Ripple, and you can monitor for incoming payments so that you can take corresponding action on the outbound path as well as the inbound path. So yeah, that's a Ripple gateway. So let's talk about links to the transaction chain, right? So if we wanted to take euros and turn them into US dollars with Ripple in the middle, you could use Fedor APIs to initiate a SEPA transaction. You could then have a gateway D set up to monitor for that transaction. Once it actually confirms the receipt of those euros, it can mirror a corresponding payment onto Ripple and send it through into a different currency. So that's the last piece of the chain. All good?
Appropriate for XRP.
There's a lawsuit hanging over Ripple right now. A group of people are saying that XRP and Ripple are sort of tied together and that they, XRP could consider it an unregistered security. What would you say to them?
Well, it's pending litigation, so I'll probably be a little bit, muted on the topic. Suffice it to say, we don't think it has merit. These are people who didn't buy XRP from us. We also don't believe XRP is a security. I think, one of the poignant arguments in my point of view is, if I went back to the office and said to the team at Ripple, hey, we're shutting down, XRP trades on 130, 140 exchanges around the world. XRP would keep trading. So you're like, wait a minute. Okay, so if it's a security of what? It's not a security of Ripple. It doesn't give you the rights to dividends or ownership of Ripple, the company. We have shareholders of Ripple, right? We raised a Series A financing, a Series B financing, and and we own a lot of XRP, but they're two separate things.
At the same time, we've seen recently Block One had the hammer come down on them from regulators. They were basically said that they were selling an unregistered security.
$24 million. Just
it's interesting you call that a hammer. They raised $4 billion, and they
yeah, it's a light hammer. It's a light hammer.
You and I would judge
maybe it's a fly swatter. Either way, so what's the difference between Block One and their token EOS versus what you guys are working on?
Well, I think one really important distinction is the XRP ledger existed before Ripple, the company. You can, it's a public blockchain. You can go back and see kind of transactions 0, 1, 2, 3. You can see when Ripple was incorporated in the Secretary of State in California. Ripple didn't create the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger had utility prior to Ripple's existence. Certainly we are an interested party in the success of the XRP ledger, for sure. We own a lot of XRP. But it's a little bit like saying, Exxon owns a lot of oil. That doesn't make oil a security. Exxon's clearly interested in how to, we can argue about the health of the, I'm not here to debate carbon emissions.
Climate crisis, you want to get into that?
This isn't the example I wanted to choose here, but suffice it to say, Exxon cares a lot because they have a lot of
customers. And so we're seeing more momentum than we've ever had around using XRP to move this liquidity around the world. And so we couldn't really be happier about how that has played out in a world where there's still a lot, I think, of FUD, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt about what's going on in crypto. This is a real use case solving a real problem for real customers.
Okay, so which banks right now are actually using Ripple?
We have signed up about over 200 banks around the world. Some of those banks just use our software to do that debit and credit, fiat to fiat, and some of them are using XRP in those flows. We have banks like Santander that we've been working with for years and are moving lots of volume through the Ripple's technology. And then, as I mentioned earlier, payment providers like MoneyGram or RIA or Asimov that are using XRP actually to move that liquidity and really reducing their cost and improving the product.
Just in terms of the transactions, though, that you're seeing using Ripple, what proportion of those actually use XRP versus direct? And just where do you see that ratio going? I'm just trying to get a sense of sort of how much XRP itself is actually used as part of the Ripple platform.
So I would say the order of magnitude way to think about it is similar to the proportion of customers. So if we've got, I don't know, a couple hundred customers we have launched, 10 to 15 of them we've talked about using XRP. I would use that ratio as the total ratio between what's happening with Ripple's technology overall.
XRP, like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, has been volatile. I asked Brad if the message to investors is don't use XRP to speculate.
People are going to speculate on different asset classes. People speculate on gold, currencies. You name it, people are going to speculate. When we think about this, and what I've said very publicly is I think the long-term value of any digital asset is going to be derived from the utility it delivers. There is a lot of hype in the crypto market space. We've seen that even recently. A lot of attention around what's going on with Libra and Facebook's announcement around Libra. Today, that's just a white paper.
Refer to this as the Aaron of the crypto space. This has been picked up by Forbes. I have to ask you, Tone, what has been going on?
I know. I wish Forbes would have reached out for an official comment, but Forbes did pick it up. It was a little bit more of a joke, but but that's what happened. That's what happened in Enron. Enron was pretty much cooking the books, and they had a fake instrument. They were selling these contracts on energy, but there was nothing there. It was all just smoke and mirrors. And that's how I see the Ripple token, and I've always explained it that way. There's absolutely no reason for this token to exist. There's no reason to add a very volatile currency, and Ripple is insanely volatile. Ripple
appropriate for XRP.
There's a lawsuit hanging over Ripple right now. A group of people are saying that XRP and Ripple are sort of tied together, and that XRP could be considered an unregistered security. What would you say to them?
Well, it's pending litigation, so I'll probably be a little bit, muted on the topic. Suffice it to say, we don't think it has merit. These are people who didn't buy XRP from us. We also don't believe XRP is a security. I think, one of the poignant arguments in my point of view is, if I went back to the office and said to the team at Ripple, hey, we're shutting down, XRP trades on 130, 140 exchanges around the world. XRP would keep trading. So you're like, wait a minute, okay, so if it's a security of what? It's not a security of Ripple. It doesn't give you the rights to dividends or ownership of Ripple, the company. We have shareholders of Ripple, right? We raised a Series A financing, a Series B financing, and we own a lot of XRP, but they're two separate things.
At the same time, we've seen recently Block One had the hammer come down on them from regulators. They were basically said that they were selling an unregistered security.
$24 million just.
It's interesting you call that a hammer. They raised $4 billion and they
yeah, it's a light hammer. It's a light hammer.
You and I would
maybe it's a fly swatter. Either way, so what's the difference between Block One and their token EOS versus what you guys are working on?
Well, I think one really important distinction is the XRP ledger existed before Ripple, the company. It's a public blockchain. You can go back and see kind of transactions 0, 1, 2, 3. You can see when Ripple was incorporated in the Secretary of State in California. Ripple didn't create the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger had utility prior to Ripple's existence. Certainly we are an interested party in the success of the XRP ledger, for sure. We own a lot of XRP. But it's a little bit like saying, Exxon owns a lot of oil. That doesn't make oil a security. Exxon's clearly interested in how to, we can argue about the health of the, I'm not here to debate carbon emissions.
Climate crisis, do you want to get into that?
This isn't the example I wanted to choose here, but suffice it to say, Exxon cares a lot because they have a lot of...
Kenny, UBI, Universal Basic Income, how would it work? How would you actually distribute the money? Because many people have been saying maybe electronic digital wallets could be the answer to this, but many people don't. Some of the poorest people in society who need it the most don't have access to banks or indeed at the same time the internet even.
That's a very good point, because what we're saying here with testing, not just testing some of this, but making it happen, it has to go hand in hand with what is today probably one of the greatest drivers of a new inequality, which is access to the internet. We've seen now that the pandemic has really pushed us into a virtual world, and those that do not have access, digital means, whether it's to access cash, to access education, new skills, are getting far left behind. So you're seeing a digital gap that's really growing, worryingly so. If I look at in our region, a country like, let's say, the Republic of Korea, over 90% have access to the internet. Then I look not that far away, let's say at Timor-Leste, and it's just over 3% of people have access to the internet. So for UNDP, a big push is to see if this can be supported as a public good, because there's a big difference between the inefficiencies of trying to provide something like a temporary basic income through old cash transfer means and doing it digitally. It's interesting, the UN Secretary General's report just came out on digital finance, and this was co-chaired by the head of UNDP, and one of the findings was that in public accounts, a government transaction, you can save about 40% per transaction. Just think of the efficiency gains in going through digital finance and hence digital wallets. So we've been experimenting with this, including in the Philippines and in other places.
People are now realize that the public blockchain was a mistake. They're trying to implement privacy on top of it. People are now concentrating on the environmental impact of proof of work and the like. So it's playing to our strength, and it's getting real this year. One thing I want to mention is the entire Italian banking system will be on Corda for interbank payments this year. Hundreds of millions of transactions will be transacted on Corda this year. So it is getting real. It's been 6 years. That feels people
refer to this as the Aaron of the crypto space. This has been picked up by Forbes. I have to ask you, Tone, what has been going on?
I know. I wish Forbes would have reached out for an official comment, but yeah, Forbes did pick it up. It was a little bit more of a joke, but but that's what happened. That's what happened in Enron. I mean, Enron was pretty much cooking the books, and they had they had a fake instrument. They were selling these, I guess, contracts on energy, but there was nothing there. It was all just smoke and mirrors. And that's how I see the Ripple token, and I've always explained it that way. There's absolutely no reason for this token to exist. There's no reason to add a very volatile currency, and Ripple is insanely volatile. Ripple just dropped 20% in a single day the other day when it fell from 30 cents down to 26 cents. These things are insanely volatile, and there's no reason for them to exist, and they keep making up reasons for it to exist. Now, there is a lawsuit going on right now claiming them to be a security, but that lawsuit is not coming on behalf of the SEC. That lawsuit is coming on behalf of an individual. So it's not exact. I don't really know what's going to happen there. We do cover it on the Bitcoin Law Review. And yeah, I know one of the lawyers didn't like the fact that I call everything a scam, but I would have given Forbes a more official comment. But yeah, the Ripple token is a really, really sad situation where it was created back in 2012 or so, just to make money, basically. And now the company has spent the last 6 years trying to disassociate itself from this token, while at the same time trying to make up any reason for it to exist.
On a final note, Tone, I do want to ask you.
Bring in Alex Holmes. He is the chair and CEO of MoneyGram. Alex, look, welcome to the program. We really like to have people on the show who are not taking advantages, but I would say a new kind of company that benefits from this new economy. Are your transactions up a lot at MoneyGram?
Yes, sir, they are. As a matter of fact, it's been quite a transition for this company over the last couple of years. We have seen a tremendous surge in digital transactions over the last 2 years, and really an incredible surge over the last quarter since the pandemic really set in. 106% growth last quarter in digital transactions, and about 27% of our total company transactions. So definitely have seen a tremendous increase as consumers, look for coronavirus safe ways to send and receive money.
I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy. I like to write checks. Are my days as a check writer numbered?
My standing joke on that is I think you can continue to write checks, but the people in line behind you probably aren't going to appreciate it very much. But yeah, I think they probably are, and I think Corona is definitely another step towards that digitization. I think.
Startup Central with me, Avan Dabash. This is the show where we get you all the focus on the startup world, technology, innovation, disruption, and anything that has to do with the new economy. And if you've got any unique ideas you want to pitch to us, you want to send us your feedback, please do reach out. Our email ID is suc@etnow.tv. We'd love to hear from you. Well, let's kickstart the show then and talk about nothing but the return of Bitcoin. It's the big story on Startup Central, as the Bitcoin now is making quite a comeback and it's giving tough competition to safe haven gold. This cryptocurrency has seen quite a surge in 2020 and it's at its highest level since 2017. My colleague Mubina Kapasi joins in to tell us a little bit more about this special story where we compare the meteoric rise of Bitcoin and compare it to gold as an asset class. Mubina, what have been the findings?
Bitcoins are back in action. Investors are jumping into the world's most popular cryptocurrency, causing it to surge beyond $18,000 per Bitcoin. This is the highest level since the 16th of December 2017. The all-time high level for Bitcoin is just a tad bit below the 20,000 mark. But the ferocity with which investors seem to be lapping up Bitcoin, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it move to that level as well. In fact, if we just look at the last 24-hour swing, Bitcoin has moved between 16,500 to 18,500. That's a $2,000 swing in just the last 24 hours. In fact, many are going as far as saying that, look, perhaps this cryptocurrency's lure is, all the more exciting investors because of it being termed by many corners of the market as a safe haven asset. This is a label that's proudly and traditionally being owned by gold, but now it looks like with the whole macroeconomic environment containing low interest rates, containing enormous amounts of money printing, people are looking at a digital alternative to currency, and that's Bitcoin. Look at the returns, by the way, by both of these what we call as safe haven assets. Bitcoin has definitely outperformed gold, though of course all the attention has been garnered by gold, with gold reaching all of those levels. Bitcoin has actually surged tremendously with much more ferocity than gold. But nevertheless, we do have some people who are still hesitant on Bitcoin as well. They believe that there's a lot of volatility. It may not be suitable for everyone, and calling it a safe haven or a competent alternative to safe haven than gold may not be the right thing. But yeah, the fact is we've seen significant bouts of volatility in Bitcoin, and this year as well, no exception.
All right, thanks very much, Mubina, for putting all of that into perspective. And let's hear it out then from some expert voices that we've interacted with on the channel. Robert Kiyosaki as well as Chris Wood on talking about which is a better bet, bullion or Bitcoins.
Oh no, I think all investors should own both gold and Bitcoin, because not because of the policies being implemented by the G7 central banks. Because as I said earlier, I'm assuming, if I'm wrong, then this will be negative for Bitcoin and gold. But my base case is that the Fed maintains these dovish policies even after the pandemic is over. My base case is that you see a growing convergence of monetary and fiscal policy, by which I mean central banks, the Fed and the Euro, will be increasingly monetizing government spending in America. And I'm also expecting sooner or later the Fed to lock in bond yields, peg Treasury bond yields higher up the yield curve, i.e. impose price controls in the Treasury bond market. Such policies are bullish for gold and for Bitcoin.
I should be Indian. I should say gold and silver, because that's real money. That's God's money. And then today there's Bitcoin, which is people's money. So I don't save money because it's opposite. Well, in here, I have gold, silver, Bitcoin, because this is outside the Federal Reserve banking system and outside Wall Street. So that's why I started my own gold mine in China, a silver mine in Argentina, and I have oil wells, because those are assets.
I don't expect to sell my gold and silver for a long time. I hope that my children have my gold and silver someday. No, everybody should own gold and silver, and I expect gold and silver to do very well in the next few years because there's going to be more turmoil, more chaos in the world economy and in governments and with currencies. No, don't sell your gold, don't sell your silver. I plan to buy more, when this current correction ends. I hope I get the timing well enough.
All right, let's analyze this movement in Bitcoin because it's been very interesting to say the least. We've got Ajit Khurana. He's a Bitcoin expert and the former CEO at Crypto Exchange, now joining in on Startup Central. Thank you so much, Ajit, for taking time out and being with us. The rally really powering on when it comes to Bitcoin. It's surpassed its highest levels this year, and investors are really ascribing these gains to the kind of demand for the perceived inflation-resistant qualities and, now the growing acceptance, wider mainstream acceptance of this cryptocurrency. What would you attribute this meteoric rise to?
Three things. First of all, the inflation-resistant quality that you talked about is true because the supply is limited, but it has to be seen in the context of central bankers all over the world just printing more money to avert COVID-19 related crisis. That, coupled with the fact that now governments all over the world are at least getting tolerant of Bitcoin, though few governments are actually enabling Bitcoin and helping them, and corporate and institutional money has entered Bitcoin. That, coupled with the fact that a lot of people don't talk about, which is decentralized finance, a lot of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is getting locked in and cannot any longer enter a supply in the market because that has been blocked into projects of decentralized finance. So on the one hand, very limited supply. On the other hand, demand is getting increasingly mainstream. That is the reason for the rise.
Okay. Fair enough. And, just give us a sense as to what your outlook is when it comes to just this label of Bitcoin as safe haven, because it's a label that's been traditionally held by gold. The drop in interest rates, the quantum of money printing by a lot of the global central bankers, all of that have caused many to opt for this digital mode of currency. Do you think that all of this can really attribute this now tag to Bitcoin as a category?
There is one very strong reason for that to be the case, and there is one strong thing that goes against it. The reason why Bitcoin can very well be called a safe haven is that its algorithm, its supply, its monetary policy, and I'm using conventional classic finance terms, are open to everybody because the algorithm which drives this cryptocurrency is open for all. We know what sort of supply will come in, how it will come in, when it will come in. As a consequence, it is not driven by a handful of representatives who form central bankers or committees that make decisions on money supply. That is the reason why it is indeed a non-correlated asset and safe haven. What goes against it is the fact that while someday it will be a truly non-correlated asset, today, when liquidity is taken away from the market, as happened, let's say, when COVID hit us, Bitcoin has shown for the time being some correlation with other asset classes, which did fall down. I think when the distribution, acceptance and adoption of Bitcoin will be even more than it is now, it will truly become a safe haven and a non-correlated asset.
Okay, fair enough. Do you think another attribute then, Abhijit, would be that there's now a stronger appetite for riskier assets, the wake of the unprecedented government and central bank stimulus measures in order to combat the COVID pandemic? There's this sort of a growing attraction to these inflation-proof qualities as well that you think are making it more attractive? And do you think that going forward, the uncertainty with which the world is surrounded by, that this sort of appetite for riskier assets is only going to drive up further?
I think that if you look back at the entire decade-long history of Bitcoin, maybe we can ignore the first 4 years where hardly anybody had heard of it. But so you look at the last 6 years of Bitcoin and you see the periods where there has been substantial rise, such as a 20, 30, 40% rise in the period of a month or even less. And see what was happening in the world that correlated with those periods. Quite clearly, there were problems in the world financial economic system. For instance, Bitcoin did arise as a consequence of the 2008 global economic crisis. And we know this for a fact because the very first block of Bitcoin that was mined actually had the headline of London Times, which was talking about the global economic crisis. So it's not conspiracy theory. But I think that, yes, the fact that interest rates have gone negative, the fact that you can no longer keep money in the bank and even get all of it back, as has happened around the world, the fact that riskier asset classes such as venture capital, private equity, etc., are yielding lower and lower despite continuing to be very risky, has definitely encouraged market participants to explore other risky asset classes where a substantial amount of return could be made. And given that, a lot of misgivings on the policy and regulatory framework which existed as recently as 2 years ago are now feeling a little comfortable. Even institutional money or intelligent money, as some people would want to call it, is headed this way.
So, just going through some articles, it seems to indicate that the typical crypto investor base, it's been dominated by millennials, particularly men. And now we've been seeing, a lot of leaders within this space or a lot of players within this space moving away from short-term trading to actual long-term value investing, wealth building, if you will, within cryptocurrencies. What's your assessment of the typical investor base and how you see it changing, growing, pivoting?
The fact is that given a very, very low supply of new Bitcoin in the world, when you look at the volumes on exchanges, and there are exchanges which are showing billions of dollars worth It could be intraday trading or a few days, few weeks kind of trading. Today, as some of the supply is being sucked away by institutions who are just packing it away, supply reduces, demand, even if it remains constant, fundamental rule of microeconomics, price goes up. That is what we are experiencing.
Okay, so what's the future outlook for some of these companies who are in this space with their volumes growing quite exponentially due to this phenomenal industry-wide trend that we've been seeing? What's the future for some of these companies now?
So these companies are of many types. At the very basic level are companies which allow swapping fiat currency, which is your rupee, dollar, euro, what have you, with cryptocurrencies. They have been seeing an exponential rise in volumes. However, I must point out that go back to as recently as 2016 and 17, the margins or commissions or brokerage or whatever term you want to use used to be as high as 2 to 6%. Now the corresponding number, people can't even demand a 0.2%. Numbers are close to 0.1%. So the volumes may have gone up 100x, but margins also have gone up like 10, 15x. As a result, I think that the number of companies that are in this space of swapping cryptocurrency with fiat currency, there are just too many in the world. They are undifferentiated. They are commodity. So based on experience, customer service, and security, the ones who will survive will capture the full market share. It may not be winner take all, but we certainly don't need the hundreds of cryptocurrency exchanges that exist around the world. I think it will come down to a handful. I must just close with a remark that the exchanges are not the only businesses. There is an entire ecosystem that has developed around it. There is a cooperative bank in India who has announced that they would give personal loans guaranteed by Bitcoin. And I know
Okay, unfortunately, I think that link seems to have snapped. But interesting talking about, perhaps now fewer players coming in. And what I also, Ajit, I just wanted to get in your thoughts on this. While you do have a number of big companies now going out there and saying that they're going to invest a part of their assets, at least globally, in Bitcoin, it seems like a lot of, smaller investors are still very tentative about this. Do you think that you need to reach a stage for the Bitcoin to actually cross levels of 14, 15 lakh for retail investors to jump in large numbers and be driven enough to invest or trade in Bitcoins?
Allow me, I'll actually answer a slightly different question. I would caution retail investors that, they can make their own decisions of whether to buy at 5, 10, 15 or 20 lakhs. That is everybody's individual decision. And, retail investors sometimes are known to enter at the peaks of the market. Everybody's individual decision, but do not get caught in people trying to prey upon your ignorance because you may not know enough about how to buy Bitcoin, where to buy Bitcoin from or store Bitcoin. Make sure you do your study and research before getting in. For all retail investors, let me point out, there is no graph in the world that keeps going only up. Come in only if you have the appetite to bear the risk associated with this rather risky asset class.
Okay, so going forward, while some are saying that the intensity with which the cryptocurrency has rebounded doesn't match that of what we saw in 2017, and although the Bitcoin is close to its all-time rupee high, the other cryptos like Ethereum and Ripple, etc., are not. What's the outlook in terms of when you can see some sort of a convincing move there?
So here's the thing, just to draw an analogy, I hate to draw analogies for Bitcoin, but just to draw an analogy, to look at some of the top 10 high market cap stocks and to compare their movement with penny stocks, I think that leads to very bad conclusions about the state of the market. Bitcoin accounts for close to 2/3 of the market capitalization of all cryptocurrency put together. And all cryptocurrency, we're talking about 1,000 different coins. So one coin accounts for 2/3 of the market. So to that extent, I think that it is not just the bellwether, but also the really the only very valuable coin. Yes, there are others, because if it's 2/3, then there are big winners amongst the remaining 1/3. I think that we have always seen that when Bitcoin takes the lead, Others take a little longer. There's a lag because the volumes are being driven by Bitcoin. Institutions favor Bitcoin because it has depth. If you look at order books of various exchanges, you can't get depth in other coins. You can get it only in Bitcoin. So I think it is reasonable for Bitcoin to take the lead. I have no prediction about whether all the coins will follow, because I also believe that the world does not need so many coins. We don't need 1,000 crypto coins. We probably need, like, I can't imagine more than 50. Probably the real number is 20. So make sure that you're aligning with the best coins.
Okay. It's been lovely chatting with you. Thanks so much for sharing with us your outlook and giving us a sense as to how this, cryptocurrency has really skyrocketed, what the outlook is, and how we can see now perhaps more retail participation given this meteoric rise. Tell you what, we'll take a short break right here on the show. Do stay with us. We've got all the top fatafat stories coming up in the startup universe when we return.
Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. Today, we've got some positive news, but there's a lot of negative things swirling around in the Twitterverse and YouTube. But let's just stick with the positive first up. So we've got growing number of institutional investors are Ethereum first and Ethereum only, says crypto giant Grayscale. That makes me pretty bullish on Ethereum, especially with what's happening Ethereum 2.0. Also, Standard Chartered, a British multinational bank, the CEO, Bill Wender, says that digital currency's widespread rollout is absolutely inevitable. And this is just more good stories about the institutions and actually even the banks who are starting to embrace cryptocurrency and digital assets. On top of banks, we've also got governments, but not in the best way. China is going to hand out $3 million worth of digital yuan as JD.com becomes the first online platform to accept it. So this is great as far as digital assets go, but it is China and it is their reserve bank currency. And the question has to get asked, is China beating every other country out there as far as adoption of cryptocurrencies and digital assets? So we're getting all that. First, take a look at the market. So it's about 4 p.m. El Paso, Texas time. It is December 7th, and you're getting a twofer today. Actually, tonight in about 3 or 4 hours, we're going to talk about the digital asset news Cardano staking pool. That should be great. It's a premiere. It'll be happening at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Little thing looks like this, so I will link that in the description of this video. But let's see what we got today. So going for the top 20, which is really what I care about. Bitcoin's down a little bit, but it's still 19.1, so nothing's really happening. And again, this is when all the money's made. When everything's moving sideways, everybody gets bored, they don't want to put any money in. This is when you put money in. This also the really the best times when everything goes down. But this is when people forget and they just go, just leave it in the background, I'll get it later. This is not that time. This is the time to really take a look at it and go, you know what? Accumulate. That's exactly what I'm doing. Ethereum's also dropping a little bit, 0.7 down to 589. XRP, watch out, 60 cents. Looks like it's going to be around 60 cents for a while unless something major happens, but we'll see. Tether's Tether, nobody cares. Litecoin, about 1.2% up, and I think that's going to be one of the bigger winners for the week because we'll see, especially with PayPal pumping it. 1.1 for Bitcoin SV, no idea why, but sure. Monero 4.6, anything great? Not really. 5.2 for OKB. Again, I don't care. So that is what is going on in the crypto space. Let's see how we would look if we compare that to not the US dollar, but to Bitcoin. So if you just would have invested in these projects, you might have beat Bitcoin. Well, Tether's Tether. Nobody cares. Litecoin, yeah, sure. 0.6, 1.3 for Bitcoin SV. Ooh, look at that. Bitcoin SV beat Bitcoin. Wow. 4.0 for Monero, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's fantastic. And before we get into it, I've seen a lot of negative things about people talking about different projects and things are going to, be sold off. It's going to be awful. That's the great thing about being a dollar cost averager, like me and you, is that I don't care. I mean, really, if things get sold off, I'm like, great. If the price goes up, I'm like, great. That's just how it works. It's fantastic. In 2017, I tried to time the market, try to trade, which is awful. And now I've just been accumulating for like the last 3 years. It's like the easiest feeling in the world. It's great. And either way it goes, I'm happy. So let's jump into today's story and get into this. So first up, Grayscale is saying that people are buying Ethereum, institutions are buying Ethereum, and Ethereum only. That, to me, is quite interesting. So what the heck is going on? Well, Grayscale is reporting that institutional investors are increasingly asking for exposure to smart contract Ethereum, and sometimes only to Ethereum, which is kind of weird because when I've been talking to some people on the inside, they're like, hey, look, people only want Bitcoin. That's all they really care about. But Grayscale is saying the exact opposite. Like, you know what? They're coming in. I think what it is, they're probably coming in as institutions and going, well, we know crypto is going to be big, and Bitcoin can only go up so much, and Ethereum has a tremendous upside just to get to, just to back to its all-time high. So maybe that's what they're looking at. And on top of the fact that Ethereum 2.0 went off without a hitch, it's going to actually hit, and I think it's going to be huge. It's either Cardano or Ethereum. I don't know which one's going to be big or which one's going to be massive, but one of those is going to be the big winner, and the other one's just going to be a big winner, so whatever. So investment managing director Michael Sonnenschein said this: over the course of 2020, we're seeing a new group of investors who are Ethereum first, and in some cases Ethereum only. There's a growing conviction around Ethereum as an asset class, and I have to agree because everything's built on Ethereum, so why wouldn't you do it? On top of that, you got everything going off in DeFi, and that's going to be a huge enterprise. So really, it is programmable money, and you can build everything on it. It's just like the protocol for email. You can build everything on that. So it's the same thing with Ethereum. They're just going to build and build and build. I think it's going to be massive, and that's why I've got, between Bitcoin and Ethereum, that's like 75% of my portfolio, honestly. Anyhow, during this year's Q3, the Grayscale Ethereum Trust has received weekly inflows of 15 million. So Q3 this year, 15 million, compared with Q2's net inflows of 10.4 million and Q1's inflow of 8.5. So every quarter, seems like people want Ethereum more and more and more. And it only accelerates as they see the success that it has. I was kind of worried with Ethereum 2.0 not being able to hit its milestones, but it did. And that was my big one. And now I'm just like, well, it's just going to go to the moon, so let's just keep putting money into it every single day. I dollar cost average into 4 cryptocurrencies right now. It is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and Voyager. And I talked about why on my Twitter account, but it only makes sense for those 4, and I think Voyager is going to be the sleeping giant. Anyhow, while Bitcoin has witnessed notable yearly gains, Ethereum is up over 360% on the year as the popularity of DeFi continues to grow. So I was like, really? That's how much it is? I don't think that's true. So I took a look at CoinGecko, and I went to Ethereum, and I scrolled down, and even farther. And I took over the 1-year chart real quick, and all the way back here, we're looking at January. Man, I totally forgot it was this low. I totally forgot. It was can you imagine this? It was $130 on the 1st of January. Imagine. And again, this is when everybody forgets and they sleep on it, like, oh, I'll get it later, or it's not that exciting. And then it goes up and everybody starts buying, and then the people sell off, they take profits. And then people right down here, it was 110 on March. They're just like, nah, coronavirus, not going to go up. And they don't do anything. This is when all the money is made. This is where all the suckers get played. This is the money. So now that it's going up, I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope it dips again. That's all I can say. So let me know what you think in the comments section. Let's move on to our next piece. Next up, Standard Chartered CEO Bill Winters says digital currency's widespread rollout is absolutely inevitable. So what's going on here? So the CEO says that digital currencies are absolutely inevitable. He is from Standard Chartered. First of all, just if you don't know, Standard Chartered is a British multinational banking and financial services company headquartered in London, England. Operates a network of more than 1,200 branches and outlets across more than 70 countries and employs 87,000 people. So pretty big type of institution, I would say. And if the banks are sitting here going, you know what, this is going to be big, I think it's time to really pay attention. I mean, not for us. We know where it's going, but for the other people that come in, it only makes sense, right? He states this: I think there's absolutely a role for central bank digital currencies as well as non-central bank sponsored digital currencies. I wonder which ones those could be. If you don't know, take a look at what PayPal did, because they say, you know what, we don't want to deal with securities, so we're just going to go Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Litecoin. Whatever else they add, they are the kingmakers. I think it's going to be enormous. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Could it be XRP? I know you're all chomping at the bit to say it. Oh, it's got to be XRP. Who knows? I don't know. But let me know why or what it is and why you pick it. That will be interesting. Standard Chartered is set to announce further news as far as digital assets along these lines in the coming days, he added. So hopefully the announcement is we are going to totally embrace central bank digital currencies. We're also looking at X, Y, and Z crypto to implement, because he says right here, non-central bank sponsored digital currencies would be fantastic. Just, it's interesting. And I think when I see all these stories, I think to myself, there's a lot of big things going on. And I don't really care if the market pulls back or it drops 40% or 60%, whatever else. You can kind of see what's going to happen. I don't know if it's good. I mean, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen. So I've always said it's not about the if, it's about the when. And I think when is 2021, 2022. Those are the big years, but only time will tell. And to finish up this article, Winter said the greatest opportunity for digital currencies could be in new niche segments that don't replicate existing fiat currencies. He states the really interesting developments for me is to have currencies that